difficulties with that broadcast, and so I'm redoing it now, so it's going to be so much easier for everybody to hear, and hopefully we have clear signal. I'm here in the Amazon, in the rainforests of Ecuador, and so I was asked to share my story. It's been about a year, and as many of you know, I was one of the three leaders in Orlando, Florida, who helped to build one of the world's largest ayahuasca churches, called Soul Quest Ayahuasca Church of Mother Earth. And I think that we served the plant medicine to over 20,000 people, maybe even more. These are the individual members of the church over the past 5 years. And so while I was at Soul Quest, I was a senior minister, and I was also ayahuasca facilitator, staff psychologist, and for a brief time I was also on the board of directors. And so, I've heard lots of rumors and speculations over this past year about, what happened to Dr. Scott, why I left, what was going on. And it just seems like there's this kind of dark, funky cloud over why I left, this mystery. So, so not many people really know what was, and it was a very difficult, just people were, not only confused, but, they're, it's like I was their minister. I was close, and I left without saying goodbye. And so that kind of bothered some people, and I could understand that here. And, like, because we were a tribe and suddenly gone. And, I'm really sorry about that. I'm going to explain some of the circumstances so that you understand, because it was a pretty challenging time. So at that time we were going through a federal and a civil litigation, and so it was just best that I quietly move on. And, I just want everybody to know that, I love my Soul Quest tribe, and I really miss our time together. And I have always wished the very best for the Soul Quest community, and in their path ahead. I don't want to cause anybody trouble. And so that's really, why I've kept quiet and kind of out of the fray. And, when I'm talking about Soul Quest, I'm talking about, the community, the amazing community that we had, the church members, the staff, the volunteers. I mean, amazing. I've never experienced anything quite like that. So, so I'm, my big reveal today is really about setting the record straight on why I left Soul Quest so quickly and quietly. And I'll tell you, it was under some pretty grave legal circumstances that still to this day are so surreal. And so I'll get into explaining the story, how it unfolded. So for a lot of you, you'll recall that, at that time, we had been going through the legalization process with the DEA, trying to help legalize ayahuasca in the United States. And, I think that our church had spent probably $1 million to $2 million, on the legal expenses to um, uh get legalization. So I mean, it was a big investment. And so this the DEA, they're just a really tricky bunch of people. And because for I don't know, maybe about a year, I think we were involved in that process. They seem to be, what I'll just call it, they appeared to be, all this time, I thought they were sincere. But in hindsight, and after this whole process, I think that they were pretending to work with us in developing what we were led to believe was a pathway to this gold standard model, or this template for, safe and responsible use of this, controlled substance called, ayahuasca. And so, we had heard that the DEA had been receiving, lots of these requests for exemptions so that they could start churches legally and dispense medicine legally. And so I know that we kind of created this backlog for them. And you know, this was really for us about collaborating with the United States government to help to, develop this gold standard model. And we had this, first class medical team at SoulQuest. Our medical director was a physician with an experienced, background in emergency medicine and knew all about the ayahuasca. And, we had an experienced medical staff with licensed paramedics and, just real professional, intake process. We had screening process. We had, protocols in place for what to do in every situation medically. And so then we had over 50 integration specialists who were professionally trained and certified by the Being True to You organization. And so these are, the Being True to You organization is the gold standard in psychedelic integration. And so, our people were extremely deep in resources for post-ceremony, support for, for medicine work, which is essential. And we had an extremely well-trained and experienced staff of facilitators. And, we're talking about if 20,000 people came through our organization, and most of those people were first-time ayahuasca drinkers, we had a lot of experience, a lot of lessons learned, we know what works, we know what doesn't work. And so, that was part of what we were bringing to the table. I mean, we were earnestly providing everything that we could to the DEA so that we could create this, this gold model, the gold standard model, this, this template for any new ayahuasca church who was, wanting to come into this arena and dispense the medicine publicly in ceremonies, and so this was the safe, best practices, the protocols, if you will. We wanted to have this bar as high as possible, and the really clearly defining what the what the manufacturing and the storing and the dispensing and the security of the ayahuasca was all about, like how to do it. And, this was considered by the federal government a controlled substance, an illegal substance. And so we were really working together, we believed, in establishing, professional best practices so that this could be, universal. And so, we were led to believe that we're in the process of using our experience and our an exemption process for, developing this template. So, and that's what we did. And so, and we had modified some of our procedures as recommended by the DEA. We had installed these security cameras. We had, special room for the storage of the ayahuasca, with the double or triple locks. And one person has a key, you can't get in without the other person. And, like all these, these controls, and every single ounce or milliliter of the ayahuasca medicine was, was measured and accounted for. And, the waste was always accounted for. And so quite an intense process. And, it's like if you're a pharmacy and you're dispensing a controlled substance, they have protocols, rules. And that's what the DEA wanted us to do, was to develop, fail-safe rules, that procedures that, meant that, people were, going to come in off the street and steal the ayahuasca and go out and, and risk harm to the public. And so, we shared everything everything with the DEA. I'm talking about, 100%, full, sincere, enthusiastic, cooperative disclosure, clear down to the license plates on cars. I remember reading in a report, one of the license plates off of one of our staff members. And I was just like, I can't believe that cell phone numbers and all that was, they were in there. And so, all the while, we're being led to believe throughout this entire process that, that we as individuals in the church were legally protected from self-incrimination. I mean, we were told by the church lawyers that, that they made some kind of advanced agreement or an arrangement, a deal with the DEA that really set the ground rules for all of us to make disclosures, honest and full disclosures about administering this, this medicine. And so that it meant that we couldn't be incriminating ourselves by admitting that in some way or in any way that we were involved in the importation, the manufacturing, and the dispensing of what they considered an illegal controlled substance. And so that's, incriminating. So, we consider the ayahuasca as our church sacrament. So, I mean, this was essential to our survival as a church movement. And, so we wanted to cooperate. I mean, we fully cooperated. And so, I know that personally, I had wanted to help this process of legalization. So, that medicine communities that were all around the country that, they seem to be popping up everywhere, after the Netflix, Unwell series and all that kind of stuff. People would come to Soul Quest or have ayahuasca experiences in other retreat centers in other parts of the world. And they would get the calling. They would say, I want to do this. I saw it at Soul Quest, or I saw it in other places, and I want to do that too. And so that's what happens. A lot of people get the call, but in order to do this, this is done underground. And so I don't believe that doing this underground is safe for the public. And so without legalization, those medicine communities couldn't get qualified, licensed, medical professionals, staff, licensed therapists that can help them with, quality integration and, the serious issues that can sometimes occur, during the work with the medicine. There's delayed or prolonged or extended reactions to the medicine. And so, this can really, take some skill and professionalism that comes from people with, usually with these, more professional backgrounds. And so to attract this kind of professionalism, we really needed to have legalization, I believe. And so, legalization also meant that we could legally conduct clinical research and, trials on the medicine and well-being and, depression and before and afters, and work with, major universities and medical centers. We had been approached by many of these, facilities, but until we're legal, we couldn't do these kinds of legitimate, accepted, studies. So, there are so many benefits to legalization. And so we wanted to be a part of contributing to that. We thought were very positive contributions to public safety. And so then there was this, denial. The DEA had rejected our application for exemption and stated that it was based on our lack of religious sincerity. And so, they had produced right after that this 200 or 300 page court document that was posted online that, they had actually, and I'm paraphrasing, it's my interpretation, but it's pretty close to this. They had basically admitted something to the effect that, although we had this this discussion that took place about an agreement that we would not be incriminating ourselves or anything like that. They said nothing was formalized on paper, and that we had no really special agreement. So, the rejection, the final determination letter came to us, and and it stated, it had a number of things, but it said primarily, it stated that we were denied because of our lack of religious sincerity. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Have you never been to, one of our church services in the Maloka, or had you never been online to any of our Soul Quest Sunday, services? I mean, it's incredible. We're deeply embedded in the spirituality and the sincerity of what this does for our spirituality and our religious sincerity. So there was a lot of identifying this idea that we refer to the medicine as the medicine. Our sacrament is the medicine. And if you look in the historic context, I'm here in the Amazon, with Yachuks, or that's Kichwa for a medicine man, for a shaman. And they call it medicina. It's the medicine. It's the medicine. Historically, it's been called the medicine. And so we refer to it, talk about sincerity. We refer to it as the medicine. And to them, they said that we're all about ayahuasca as a medicine, as a treatment, not as a sacrament. And, something to that effect. And, that we were not at all grounded in the ayahuasca manifesto. That was, what we based our, church doctrine upon. And so, every time I got up in public, I always referred to the Ayahuasca Manifesto. I would quote it, I would say, respect is what every other person owes every person. This is the core of our church. And they're saying, that after months and months of interviewing our senior leadership at the church and our staff, that only one person briefly made mention to the ayahuasca manifesto, and so hence no religious sincerity, and our exemption was denied. Now, folks, understand that our church attorneys, like $600 an hour attorneys, like really top of the line. These guys are, skilled professionals. They understand the Constitution. They understand, religious freedom laws. They understand, this process. And so, gosh, the attorneys, advised us, I think, like most good attorneys would advise their clients, to only answer the questions that the DEA asks. So, answer question A with answer A. Don't go off into, some, tree hugging kumbaya, stories of, other stuff. Stay focused, answer specifically what they ask you. And so, their line of questioning was almost exclusively directed towards, many, many, many specifics about the Soul Quest Natural Healing Center, which was a completely separate entity that provided, outsourced services for Soul Quest. And it's, this line of question, exclusive line of questioning about what are the services, what are they about, what's this integration service, what is all this, what are the IV therapies for, what is, K laser, class 4 therapeutic laser, why are you doing ion cleanses, what are, these services, and question after question after question about specifics, like, how is it legally structured, and all that. And so it was really, amazing that in their rejection letter, they said we had no religious sincerity, because not once in this entire time that we were working with the DEA and cooperating fully, did they ever ask us any question about our, our beliefs, our religion, our ayahuasca manifesto, or any of things that had to do with anything that had to do with our church doctrine? Zero, nada, nils, nothing. Not one question about our spiritual belief, not even anything remotely close. So, if you know me and you've been involved in any of my integration groups, I can go on and on and on for hours in this, in this topic, and talk until I'm blue in the face. And so, this to me was just bunk. It was just incredible to make these kind of claims. And so when your attorneys say only answer the questions that the government asks you, and you're inclined to like listen and follow directions and not go off topic. And so I feel like in the end that what the DEA did is they really tricked us. They selected very limited types of questions that led to an extremely distorted picture of what we're all about as a church. And then they claim we have no religious sincerity. If you only ask one line of questioning and you don't ask this other, and then you completely come up with a reason, well, you're not sincere. Well, you never asked us any questions about this. This to me is bunk. It was complete bunk. And so, it was the final determination letter, and then, the which basically, my attorneys had informed me that after that determination letter came, it basically rendered, in my attorney's opinion, that the operation at SoulQuest had to stop, and that it would be considered no longer under protection of this process of exemption, because we could stay open during the appeal or the process. And so it basically rendered the operation, in his opinion, as an illegal operation, and that the original cease and desist orders still stand. And so, I mean, I'm just going off of, this was my basic recollection of the events as they unfolded. This is a very confusing time, and I had read these documents, online, that were posted on the court the court dockets, the prosser or whatever that system is called. I read, this, 300 or 300 page report with, all of these exhibits and, every detail of every conversation. And, it was, that's where I found out about, hey, we don't have a deal. We talked about it, but, basically no deal, which meant that everything that we said could be used against us and we could be incriminated. At least that's what the interpretation was that, that I had. And so that to me was one really scary moment of realizing that, we had faith and we trusted these folks from the DEA who were, we thought, sincere and working with us. And so we never, ever, ever expected that the DEA would reject our request for exemption. I mean, we were like 99% sure. I mean, they had given us through our attorneys and, all of the positive indications that everything was going in the right direction. And they talked about it in those terms, like, this is where we're going. No clue that they were up to shenanigans or, I mean, I don't want to be in trouble for, mischaracterizing or accusing the DEA of having an ulterior motive. But, when we put the pieces together, I mean, what kind of good faith is that when they end up saying, well, we didn't have a deal in writing to the court? So, I'm kind of like, okay, that was a big, pull the rug out from under my feet as far as this whole thing. And then the story just keeps getting more surreal and more perilous for me in this process. And, when I'm talking about me, I'm saying this is also the other people that are at the church as well. but, I'm not responsible for them. I needed to look out for myself in this regard because, it was my butt on the line. And so here's what happened. Shortly after that moment, of the 300-page document or whatever that was being posted, I start getting some disturbing phone calls from some concerned people. I mean, these are people that I consider to be, highly respectable, credible. Some are leaders that are in the, the larger, ayahuasca community. They have, legal savvy. And so these were people that I trusted. But then I got a call from my attorney, and he had just read that, 200 or 300-page document, from the DEA. And, it was the intensity of my attorney that shocked me at first. He said, this is very serious. Do you understand what's happening? And I'm like, no, I'm just like getting ready for, I think we had ceremony coming up, that night. It was like, I think on Friday. And I'm like, what? And he's explaining to me that I could be getting into some very serious trouble here. And then, and then I had this other call from this person, my trusted friend, my trusted source, I would call him. And I was being warned of a possible sting operation that could be going down right now. And then I better brace myself and get a defense attorney because, things are going to be happening pretty quickly, or they could be happening pretty quickly, and that we could all be potentially going to jail. And I'm like, what? What? And so, I was told that, that it references in this 200 or 300-page document with the DEA that now I find out that we have no evidence of self-incrimination, that, there's also these exhibits and these reports about revealing somehow my involvement in arranging for shipments of vine and leaf to the Silquest Church in Orlando. And that, I could be potentially criminally liable and could be facing up to 30 years in prison or more. And, I'm like, what? I'm like dumbfounded. I'm shocked because, in this report, it had, documented that, the DMT, the quantity of DMT that was found in the recent shipments that had just been, confiscated during a raid by FBI agent, or I don't know, FBI, I mean federal agents of some division, and it's all in the DEA's report who showed up and all that. But as I understand, it was federal agents, it was U.S. Customs and Border Control, it was state sheriffs or in local law enforcement. And so all that information's online. If I'm misquoting it, don't sue me, don't take me to court. It's like, oops, I misspoke. I'm trying to convey this as sincerely as possible. So perhaps the names are slightly off. Maybe it was federal sheriffs instead of state sheriffs or local sheriffs. I don't know, but at the best of my memory, this is what I got. And that, so do the research on your own, find it online. So, as if that were not enough, this person that was calling me was warning me of this possible, sting operation, and saying that, there's a branch of the government, and didn't know which one it was. It could be the IRS, it could be, state law enforcement, federal, state, who knows, that they didn't have that, or they didn't share with me who. They just gave me a warning that something really bad could be going down, and that I might get it caught in the middle of some kind of huge, big, sting bust, church drug bust, or church, or just some kind of like, bust. And so, I'm just, at this point, I'm just unbelievably frightened and intimidated and confused and shocked, and I have no idea what just happened. I mean, this cannot be happening. I mean, this is like, I can't believe this is happening. And so, my attorney, of course, I'm talking to my attorney, my attorney's like, just stop everything that you're doing right there. Stop all your work immediately, and, and remove yourself from the church. And so, going on a little bit more about this call, I was told that, and I don't know if this is true or not, I'm just being warned by someone I trust. And they're telling me that, there could be this, they thought that there was this criminal investigation going on of some kind, that just, they were targeting Chris Young, who is one of the founders of Soul Quest. And they just advised me to be very, very, very careful, and that, something like this would really hurt my life. Going to 30 years in prison is going to hurt my life. And so, I was warned that there was a small window of safety, or possibly a small window of time, that I could extract myself from this potential crossfire. And so, to hurry up and make a decision fast about, removing myself from the church, getting out. So, evidently this was about the government wanting to get Chris Young, because, he was the guy that picked the fight with the federal government. And so, I was told that, that the government knows everything. They know everything about the church finances and all the bank records, and they knew, everything, that, and that Chris was somehow being investigated for, the possibility of fraud or criminal activity. And, I don't know anything about that. It's like, and I didn't know what to believe. And I'm just like, this is getting crazier and crazier by the day. And so, they warned me, that they said that, since Chris and Verena were still married, that, Verena couldn't be forced to testify against her own husband, and that nobody else would know more about the internal workings of the church than me. And I'm like, well, this is, whatever. It's like I was even told that, and this was where I really started getting a little paranoid, or extremely nervous. Like, I was already, shitting my pants, and just in complete, utter, petrification. And they told me that, hey, don't rule out that there's a strong possibility that, undercover agents could be setting me up and planting the illegal drugs on me, like cocaine or something, and then arresting me to coerce me into testifying against the church. And we're talking about, this is ultimately about, compelling me to help them to bring down one of the world's largest ayahuasca churches. And so, I'm like, nothing like trickery, or some scheme like that, to dissuade, anyone in the future from ever wanting to open an ayahuasca church legally, in the United States. And so I'm like, I don't know what to think, but it could be plausible. I mean, they did it to Timothy Leary, and I'm not saying that I'm a Timothy Leary, but we hear these stories, and God knows what the government is capable of. And so, I'm from Nebraska. I have never been in trouble with the law a day in my life. And so everything that was happening to me was beyond anything that I'd ever experienced or anything I'd ever imagined. And so, under advisement, I immediately got a federal criminal defense attorney, and I was advised to, formally resign from the church, which I did. And, and again, my attorneys were advising me, and both of them, they were advising me that, according to the government, this church serving ayahuasca is now restricted. And they're restricted from legally serving, or protected, or whatever, the ayahuasca. In other words, it's outside of the law. It's not legal. And I don't know at that moment if they had filed for another appeal, because I think that you're protected and can operate under, when you get rejected, you take it to a higher court and ask for an exemption, or a determination of some kind. So I don't know what the legal term is, but there's something that you ask the judge for some involvement. But anyhow, I was told it's not happening. So, here I am. I am like um, frozen. I don't know what to do. And so it was about that same time that I'm trying to sort this all out and getting the resignation going. And I just happened to receive this phone call, another phone call from a colleague of mine that was inviting me to lead ayahuasca integration groups for some Russians at this indigenous tribal community in Ecuador called Sacha. And so that's how Sacha and this experience in Ecuador started. And so, it sounded to me like probably a good option at that moment to, get some space to step away from, from the church and all this drama. And I had just resigned, and I loved the church. I loved everything that I was doing with the church. I loved their community and helping so many people, connect and commune with with their true selves. I mean, that's what I'm all about. And so, I just lost, my church family, and my relationship with Verena, and, all of my friends, and my business. I was just like, this was crazy. This was just crazy. So, I thought, okay, since my entire world had just been flipped upside down, maybe it's time to go to the Amazon. I mean, let me tell you, I've never thought really about going to the Amazon. I always thought spiders and mud and, rivers and jungle and all that. It's like, I was like, I don't want to do that. I was really happy with with the convenience of the medicine in the United States. So it wasn't a dream. It was not on my radar at all. And so, I had shared with my attorney that I'd got this invitation and that I was considering leaving the country for this. I think it was like maybe a 15-day experience. It wasn't really, I didn't really know. I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll go there and see how it goes. But I didn't have this plan of staying here permanently. And so my criminal defense attorney said, if there's a criminal investigation going on and you're a target of this investigation, you definitely cannot leave the country. It's like they're going to arrest you for, at the airport and put you in handcuffs, for fleeing and, something like that. And then I would be a fugitive. And I'm just like going, does this shit get any worse? And so, they told me that, this is not a good idea. In here. Office and by on Brickell, those attorneys, and he's pointing out his window. He says, look at that down there, see that building? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, that's the jail. I said, that's where they'll take you. And that's where they're going to put you, and then I'll come get you out. And I'm thinking, holy mother, I am not gonna get in trouble. This is not happening. It's like, you're kidding me. It's like, I've never been in trouble. That's when I lost it. That is completely when I just cried. I was just crying. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's happening. And I don't want to be in trouble. And, I was really scared, talk about shitting my pants, in time. I got on the horn really quickly, and he just spent hours, working with the DEA and calling the agents that were, involved in the cases and other contacts that he had in the government, and just really, confirming that, investigations, and explaining to them that, hey, my client wants to, travel out of the country. And we want to make sure that he's not breaking any laws, that he's not fleeing, that kind of thing. And so we wanted to get confirmation that it was okay for me to fly, because I was getting ready to fly like in a few days. And so, luckily, they came back with no. And it wasn't, in fact, it was about 3 weeks after I had actually got on a plane and went through the security, and I'm like sweating bullets. I'm thinking any second now they could be hauling me into handcuffs, and what a humiliating experience, and it would ruin my career, and it would just ruin me. And this is what I'm walking to the airport with, going, okay, um am I in trouble? I mean, talk about my core fears. It's like one of my core fears from childhood is that I've done something wrong. I'm in trouble. I'm gonna get punished. And here I am, like living this out in a drama that is so much bigger than, it's like the stuff that you see in movies. And it was happening in my life. And it's like, I don't want this. This is not okay. And so, it wasn't until about 3 or 4 weeks later, when I was in Ecuador, that my federal criminal defense attorney had gotten more direct confirmation that, in fact, no, not in trouble. I mean, he gave them all the information that my client is traveling, here's where he's going to be. I pledged my full cooperation if we ever were required to be in any kind of legal proceedings or this sort of thing, to say, hey, my client is not a hostile witness or whatever. And so, I mean, my God, this was such a heavy, scary, frightening experience. And so, to all of my friends out there, that at SoulQuest, and that I loved so much, and this was so hard for me, and I couldn't talk about it. This was one of those things. It's like, with the litigations that were going on, with extracting myself, with this was this huge mess. And so it was just best for me to back out, and to leave quietly. And so I was hurt. I mean, this was a really a shocking experience for me. And I'm a person too. All of my spiritual skills and resources were, at that moment, they were really challenged. It's like, I am scared to death that I am going to go to jail. And I never ever thought we were doing anything wrong. I never believed that we were doing anything illegal, because I was told by our, fancy attorneys at the church that, that we're protected by the Constitution and our religious freedom to, to worship as we please, and that this was a part of what was covered in, in our constitutional rights. And so, you know, I I really I really felt like, the DEA had said this is game over with the final determination. All this other stuff that was just coming to me is like, this is dangerous. So, we would be at SoulQuest, and, there would be, like helicopters from, they might have been doing, traffic reports, or they might have been, reporters that are covering stories. Like maybe there's the sting is about to go down, and, we're thinking like, oh my God, we're, the bust is happening. We're all going to jail. This is a raid. I mean, this is how it was in the end. It was just super intense, and not knowing, are we in trouble? I mean, like, what's going to happen? What are they going to do? Are they going to come in during a weekend ceremony when we have all of our guests that are under the medicine, and how horrible, if you're under the medicine, and there's a bus, a raid, it's just like, this is not okay. This is not, our religious freedom. This is not okay. And so all of this became very, it just became very confusing. And so this is when, I decided to take this adventure into this beautiful Amazon jungle, and with all that happening, I immediately started working deep into the medicine. And, I did like 11 ayahuasca ceremonies, like in a very short period of time, and lots of mushrooms. I have so much respect for the hongos, as they call them, mushroom, the psilocybin here. And the wachuma, the San Pedro, and the guanto is just about 100 times stronger than ayahuasca. I mean, that's the medicine work that I did to move through this, and to find my grounding, and to get back on my feet. And so, this is what was going on. Um, and it's just not right. It's just not safe. It could be something that could prejudice a jury. And we've got cases that are going to trial their own mind based on the facts. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I love SoulQuest. I love my work with this medicine. It's a deep part of my core now. And so I'm here in this beautiful country where ayahuasca and the plant medicines and the indigenous people of the jungle are considered national treasures. I mean, we're not scared here that we're going to get busted. It's not like that. We've got yachucks, which is the Quechua word for shaman. There are 50 generations deep in their lineage. And so these folks, have a community, a tribal community here that administers the medicine in the way that it's been done, in the place where the medicine came from. And so, from where it came, not to end a sentence with a preposition, but the idea is, I found here what is now my new home. And so I love it here. And so we're going to be starting some integration groups with the plant medicine path platform. I'm going to be doing Tuesdays at 2 for integration and jungle integration with Dr. Scott. So be looking for some posts on that. Hopefully we're not going to have the technology, tech difficulties that we had yesterday, but I do hope that, we have connections. This is the jungle. It's an amazing place. And, we spent, thousands of dollars getting high-speed internet here. And most of the time it works, but, things happen. And sometimes, the weather is bad, and or worse, there's an accident and somebody has a car accident and knocks down one of the telephone poles, and then our electricity is out. And so no Wi-Fi, no electricity. And that means also no water, in our water filtration system, and, all that stuff. But, we'll talk about those things in the future. We're going to be starting back with our Sunday church services, which I just was so excited to get that invitation. And we're, with our A team that we had on our Sunday services. It's going to be Psychedelic Sundays with Dr. Scott and the Church of the Sacred Plants. And so, tune in for that. We've got, all these great people that were with us before. This is going to be an evolution of what we started, and, onward and upward. Every week. And so, we want to continue or I want to continue to connect with you. And I feel like it's safe now. And I know the rules of what I can and cannot talk about. I want to make sure that I don't violate any laws or any rules. And this legal stuff is, if any of you have ever been involved with legal actions, you never know. It's like, it's a whole nother game. And so I want to play this game honestly and with integrity and follow the rules. I'm not looking to hurt or harm anyone. And so I'm about my father's business, as I say, or the madre's business in this regard. And I want to keep bringing the positivity and the culture and the incredible wisdom that comes from this work with the plant medicine to people that are on this path. And so thank you for listening and for reconnecting. I got so many messages from people, and it just so touched to know that my place in the community was well received and had value. And it was like it felt like a divorce. I was like shut out. If you've ever gone through divorce, suddenly your in-laws are not allowed to talk to you, or you're not allowed to talk to them or something, because of loyalties and this sort of thing. And I certainly experienced that at SoulQuest, and that hurt me deeply. And I understand, it happened on both sides. I couldn't talk. And so, we're moving forward. Parameter bless you. And remember that, this world is not complete without each and every one of you showing up as the very highest versions of yourself. So, do the work, each other home. So I can't wait to see you again. And so God bless and aho.